The launch game, power up your conversion rate. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa, and I am a marketing strategist with Move to CEO. And I have my lovely co host here, Miss Kai, all day. And she is a business coach for Move to CEO, as well as many businesses that are out there. And so I just am so blessed to have you here, Kai. We're talking about the conversion rate because we did a show. It's part one, but we were talking about how your audience growth is so based on how many people you have. So how many you need to convert in order to get to the goal, your money goal.
Yeah.
And then that is a lovely mathematical equation that we had to look up and really, really hard to get the answer to. But your conversion rate has a huge impact on how many people you have to get.
Yes.
Obviously, if you have a 5% conversion rate, you have to have way more people. So today we're talking about how to improve your conversion rate. And I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so last week was the first part of the launch game, as Tessa said. And, something to note is the reason that we really dove into that last week is because we get so many people, and we've done the same thing where, you're working on the product behind the scenes or whatever it is that you're about to launch. And you're working so hard in that you've actually forgotten to, work on the part that also matters, which is building your audience. So then you get to this point where you're like, I'm ready to launch. And then you look around and it's crickets. And then you think, well, my product must be horrible. And the reality is, if you don't have anyone to sell to, it has nothing to do with your product.
Right. I mean, and a lot of people think if I build it, they're going to come. It's just naturally the internet's going to just pour all these people on me, but that's not how the search engines work at all. In fact, an SEO or search engine optimization is a long-term game that can take 3 to 6 months, even for the search engine to figure out you exist. So, building your audience ahead of time is critical. And then also knowing what what we're going to go through today, the conversion, how to make that turn into money. And that's tricky. It's tricky because you hear a lot of people say like social media on average, 2 to 5% conversion rate on the average social media account. And that's if you're doing everything right.
Yes. So today, let's just dive in. We want to get it to you quick so you guys can really figure out what you guys are doing in your own business and with your own launches, because we still, even though we preach this a lot, we still get people who are like, I'm not ready to launch yet. Great. That's actually the perfect time, because the less time you have, yes, you can still build an audience quickly, but a lot of people, I'm going to be very honest with you, aren't really willing to do the things that you need to do to build the audience quickly, because it does take you out of your comfort zone. So unless you are really ready, and we're going to get into that actually in the next we're going to be talking about ways to do it, how to do it quickly, what's the slow game, all those things. But let's just dive into this part. So let's say that you've built your audience, or you're on your way to building your audience, and now you're ready to launch. Like, how do you actually make sure that it's going to be a successful launch? Or how do you make sure that, my conversion rate's going to be great, right? That's really what we want to know, because you can have 1 million people in your audience, but if you don't have these things, nailed down, your conversion rate is going to be, 0 to none, right? So you don't want it to be at 0%. You want it to be at the higher end, right? Whatever that means for your business. And this does change from business to business. So you have to understand that, right? What is a good 5% for one person could be a really bad year for another person. You really have to understand what your conversion rate for profit looks like. But let's just go into, 3 of the things that we would tell you really matter. And, one of those things that I always talk about is, you hear a lot about and I always get this wrong, but it's your value proposition and your success, right? Which is great as a marketer, because it teaches us a lot of things that we need to do behind the scenes. How do we need to position you? What does that look like when we're looking at the metrics and all those things? But a lot of people go into this and start teaching all of us DIY business owners, hey, you really need to figure out your UPS?
Yes, so we have different ones. There's so many different versions. So you might have heard UPS, which is unique positioning statement, your value proposition, but really they all boil down to the same thing. And that's really, why do people care? And, what makes you so unique, essentially.
And so what I want to tell you all is, while it's important to know how you are different, yes, you should know that. You don't need a big formula to figure that out, right? What you really need to understand, because here's what happens is I figure out how I'm different and then I sell that piece. But really your audience doesn't care.
They don't. They don't care, because it has to be about them.
And this is the part that matters. So yes, you need to know that. But this is where you tie it into your audience and where it then starts to matter for your audience. And it is, what are their core triggers?
And I just want to stop there because I want to put it on the screen and like burn this into your mind, because core triggers are something that people tend to avoid, or they, I've even heard some people say, I don't want to do the negativity. And I know Kai helped me to turn things around to a positive aspect, but that really it all boils down to the same thing. Like, why do they need what you have or what you offer, right? What are the things that are going to make them buy because they have to solve a problem? They're on fire. They need water. I think it's so easy.
So if you go and you go through all of our videos, you'll find one that talks about your muse, and that's the one you'd want to really go to figure out what your core triggers are. But really what core triggers are in a nutshell are the things that matter to your muse. So, we talk about target audience. I'm sorry, I don't ever mean to poo-poo on these things that people talk about, but they drive me a little bit batty. So I do apologize if it comes across negatively, but I just want you to understand, when you think about your target audience, a lot of times, a lot of the things you're being taught are things that as marketers, we need to do our jobs well. But as a business owner who is creating copy and messaging, it really messes a lot of you guys up, because then you start talking to people from this perspective of marketing tactics and really, and I'm going to share with you the bonus in a second, but what we need to figure out are, what are those core triggers? So really, what is your person experiencing? What does life look like for them? And what do they want life look like to them? And yes, it's even more in depth than that. So definitely check that out. But that's something that when I think about here's how I stand out as a business doing this, but why does it matter to them? And so let me give you an example. So for example, we do business coaching. Okay. At Move to CEO, we do business coaching. And that looks different in a lot of ways. We have programs, workshops, all those things. But one of our values is to provide affordable coaching to DIY business owners. Why? Because a lot of people, for great coaching programs, it costs $2,000 plus to get in. And that's after you've spent years, then you're trying to make this $2,000 to pay for that. So it just didn't make sense to us that these are the people who are really struggling right now, who need that help. And they're getting bombarded by YouTube searches, by the Google abyss. You're thinking you got to get your PhD on Google, which is, very frustrating. And so years go by that you've lost this time to create momentum. And then you think you're a failure. And in reality, you just didn't have help. And so we have a program, it's like, it's less than $100. I think it's like 50. I don't even know, but
it's very, very affordable. Like I wish that we existed. That doesn't even make
sense. In the day, yeah. but a program like this,
we designed it for that we want to help people get that piece going for their business, because it was what held us back and actually cost us way more in the end, because we were trying to do all the fixes, the DIY stuff.
I think 5 figures per person.
Way.
So think of that. That is how we stand out. Right? We created not just like a, hey, come in here and ask us a question, but you can actually get coaching, you get workshop, you get the things you need in a simplified manner so that you can get the momentum that you need to keep going. right? But for us, that's how we stand out. But does that actually matter to our audience? It does when I speak to their core trigger, but it doesn't if I'm like, hey, this is how we're different. Like, oh, awesome.
This is better than coaching. Like, I'm telling you what we're better at, that it's more affordable than coaching. Like, I'm telling you the almost like the benefits. Like, this fan has 3 speeds. Well, that's not the benefit. They don't care that it has 3 speeds until you tell them, so you can control your climate in your room. It's like, that's the actual, it's like it's not a feature, it's the actual benefit. I should say. I got that backwards. But I think the core triggers that Kai goes over, and we do, like we said, have a training that goes into depth on that. So we'll put that in the post for you. But really, it's about that before. What's life like now if you were looking in the window? And then where do they want to be? What does life look like when it's all solved?
And I'm sure that you've heard this before, because I've heard it before. So I would go to the training because we go into much greater detail than just those 2 things. And so it really can help you to figure out how you talk about that. But with that said, I want to round this off. So, we talk about, okay, here's our program. Here's how we're different. You don't care. But if I'm speaking to something where you're like, I know that I'm lost in YouTube searches because I spend 8 hours a day and I go from video to video. And now I have 20,000 tactics that I got to try. And I have a bunch of things on my to-do list. If you're watching this, whether in the replay or live, you can hit like, yes, put an emoji raising your hand. That's 100% me, or just write me, because a lot of us do this, and you waste years of your life trying to figure out how to build your business. So then if I speak to that, right, that frustration that you're experiencing, that tangible thing of spending hours on YouTube, and then I talk about this program, like the opportunity for you to get help, to shortcut those years, to whatever. Now I'm speaking to your core trigger, which then brings us to the second piece, which is product alignment. And what that means is I can speak to your core trigger here, but then if I say, like, if your pain is that you can't afford a coach and you're spending all this time, and then I bring you to a product that is like, hey, it's only $10,000 to join. Does that seem like it's aligned to what I'm speaking to you? Not at all. But if I say, hey, it's only, $49 to join per month, and you get all these things, like, all of a sudden there is alignment, and it addresses specifically the pain and the tangible things that you are going through at the moment. Now it makes sense to you in your mind. Now that conversion rate can go even higher. Right now, my conversion is going to be better because I'm speaking to you where you're at. I'm bringing you to a place that you want to be in a way that you want to consume it. And now it's like, okay, this is a no-brainer. That's what we talk about when people say no-brainer deals. It's really that. So those 2 things right there. What is the core trigger and what is the product alignment? They need to make sense, because the core trigger speaks to how you are speaking to people. And you want to make sure that where you're speaking to them is giving them a very clear way and makes sense to where you're bringing them. And a lot of times we don't do that. A lot of times
we've tried it even.
Aligned, right?
Right. We've tried it. You try something. We're in the service industry because we have coaching services or marketing services. But we've done the same. We're like, hey, this would be a great idea. We should come out with this for our clients. And it's far from what they actually needed because we didn't come from this place. So you'll find that it's not in alignment if nobody's biting.
I have an audience to bite.
I have an audience. Right. You're actually trying. There's people that you're putting this out to, but if nobody's buying, or you're getting a lot of sales objections, like, you're just not connecting with the people. So that might be something to think about if you're getting those on a consistent basis. But a lot, it's hard to figure out exactly. But ask your audience, right? So the product alignment, we do beta tests to see, hey, are we really meeting the needs where people are at? And every time we do a beta with a group, we find out something new that we never thought about every time. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about, I'm wording it this way, you're saying it this way. Now we have alignment.
Yeah. And so we want to just wrap this up for you guys with a nice little bow. I did say there were 3 things and a bonus. So those were the 2, the core triggers, product alignment. The next one's pretty simple, but people don't think about this. And it is a clear path to sales. And what do we mean by that, Tessa?
Well, I think where you have the entry point coming, where people come in, if that's your social media post or if that's an ad, whatever your entry point is, you actually have to have a plan to get them to the end. If
Yeah.
you don't, and you're just posting social media and you have no path to success, like they
Yeah.
literally will not get there. It's like they could be
And
on a turnstile, like a
yeah.
roundabout.
But can I also say, when we say a clear path, now, first it starts with you, everything that Tessa's saying, but also it has to be logical to your customer. So for example, this is something that drives me crazy is when I go to somebody's page, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this. And so logically for me on Instagram is I'm going to go to your link in bio. I'm going to find out how to work with you. There's going to be something. And then you go to it and it's like leading you to some freebie, which is not on the website. Then you're like trying to figure out, well, do they have a website? If I have to Google to figure out how to buy from you, then we're in trouble. If you don't ever tell me what you're selling, and you've heard our story many a times before where we've had the same experience, then you're in trouble. If whatever it is, there has to be a clear path to sales. So you can create the strategy and the plan, which we help you with, but you need to actually then like have those bright arrows that are like, here's how you buy. This is what you're buying.
This is what
right
I sell. It's like we should not be ashamed of what we sell because we're serving people, we're helping them, right? So we all have to come from that place. I think you mentioned it though so well, and that's that you actually have to know that your path is working, not just that you made it, but test it regularly. I mean, with all of my clients that we have websites with, we test the forms at least once a month. I know people who don't test their forms at all ever, and they never experience it in their funnel. So no matter what you set up, even if you think, oh, it's polished, it's done, set a schedule for going back through and seeing that everything still works. Links break, things. You don't want your audience to get frustrated and like abort mission because your form does not submit.
Yes, 100%. Okay, and the last one, which is the bonus, right? And then we're gonna wrap it up. The bonus is that you have to humanize the sales experience. And so, I talked about the USP, the value proposition, how you stand out. We talked about benefits and features. We talked about core triggers, product alignment, and actually making the sale. But at the end of the day, how do you make it not salesy? Is you actually care about the person you're speaking to. There's a reason we call our target audience our muse, because it's somebody who inspires us and somebody that we want to work with. So they
want to work with us too.
And they're not just some, like a red, what is that red dot?
Oh, the toy. Yeah, they're not just the
bullseye wallet I'm aiming at, right? Like I never want you to think of them. Think of them as your people. These are my people. I wouldn't be ashamed to walk into a room with them because I know that what I'm selling is that good. I know that what I'm selling is going to serve them and get them these results. If you cannot say that, then work on your product, figure that out, figure out what your people are. It doesn't mean that it's a bad product. You just have to be able to hold your head high. And then if you can understand like the value of what you bring, and then you sell it from that place, right? Of wanting to serve somebody, wanting to make their life better. Like think about how that translates when I speak to somebody's core trigger over me just talking about like, this is a great product. Here's why I'm great compared to other people. Here's all of my PhDs. Here's like how flashy I am and beautiful, like a peacock. Like, these may be really great things to some people, but you need to know who your audience is and what they like about you. And then understand how do you actually sell to them in a way that is, like a human to a human and not like, I'm going to end with this. When you get on a discovery call, and you're already being baited. I know every single time. Right. And so don't be that person.
I think
don't be that person.
I watch a lot of people who talk about, making selling less sleazy, because it's very important to me because I'm a customer service oriented person. And but the best advice that I had somebody say is, this isn't for everybody, but it might be for you. And that's truly how we feel. Like our program, monthly program, is definitely for some people who need that help and want coaching. It's not for everyone. If you just want to get it done for you, it may not be, because we're not going to do it for you on your business. You have, like in our world, you have to participate. So I mean, I just have to say, but thank you guys so much for being here. We have part 3, which will come out in just a little bit next week, actually. So Thursday. And if you guys have any questions, let us know in the chat and we'll be right here for you.
Yes.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.